Want a happy business? Then take your name out of the phone book, stop all advertising, lock your doors, and fire 75% of your clients. That's just a bit of marketing advice from today's guest.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day, motivated business owner. It is Timbo Reid here, back for another episode of the world's #1 small business marketing show. A show, by the way, laser focused on helping you grow a business you love through some very smart marketing. To that end, let's get stuck in to some marketing gold.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid.
You know, one of my favourite quotes is this: if you think what you've always thought, you'll do what you've always done. And if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. It's a stark reminder that as a small business owner, we need to keep challenging the status quo, to keep pushing ourselves, to never get complacent. Unfortunately, I see far too many business owners stuck in a marketing rut, rolling out the same old campaigns, trying out the same old channels to market, and as a result, getting frustrated and annoyed with the whole marketing thing. Instead, they lose faith in marketing and go back to being stuck working in their business instead of on it. Is that sounding familiar? If it is, then here is 7 marketing jolts to shake you into action. Number 1, update your website by adding some new pages and making changes to some existing ones. Write a new introductory headline and copy, delete a section that's getting no traffic, or update those 5-year-old photos. Marketing jolt number 2, grab your smartphone and video yourself answering a frequently asked question. Then upload it to YouTube. Don't judge it, just upload it and share the link on Facebook and Twitter. You're on Facebook and Twitter, right? Number 3, speaking of social media, start an advertising campaign on Facebook. Either promote your page or boost a post. It's easier than you think. Just follow the drop-down menus on your business page. You haven't got a business page? Maybe it's time to look into getting one. Marketing jolt number 4, get out of your comfort zone. Head over to meetup.com and find an event that sounds interesting. It doesn't need to be with a bunch of folk from your industry. In fact, probably better that it's not. Sometimes the best ideas come from outside of your own 4 walls. Marketing jolt number 5, ring every past client you've not spoken to in the past 12 months. You know, the cheapest form of business is often repeat business, and I bet one of them will say something like, "Hey, I've been meaning to ring you for ages. I've just been flat out. Can I order some more?" Number 6, get out there and seek some free publicity. You know, the media has a lot of space to fill day in, day out. Find an angle that you think would be of interest and call a journo, email a podcaster or a blogger, or head over to a site like Source Bottle, that's SOURCE, bottle.com.au, where journos and bloggers are always seeking expert opinions for their articles, and it's free. Speaking of free, number 7, put on a free information evening to educate your prospects and clients. No hard sell. Just share your best knowledge with a view to helping them make a more informed decision. Promote it via email, social media, in your store, maybe even run an ad in a relevant publication. Now remember, team, marketing is the oxygen of successful small businesses. So drop what's not working, schedule some time to drop some new ideas into your marketing mix, and never, ever stand still. Because if you do, you'll get what you've always got. Alrighty, before we get going, well, as if we haven't got going, we are well and truly into some marketing GOLD. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all those solopreneurs from the Flying Solo Network. Now, there's plenty of marketing gold in today's show, including a very, very interesting and inspiring fireside chat with Paddi Lund, a dentist who sacrificed empire building for happiness. And he's got some very, very interesting views on marketing and business. But first, let me tell you about how our very good friends who make this show possible can help you get your online marketing sorted. You know how the online marketing world is full of acronyms? You know, SEO, PPC, DNS, SEM. Seriously, as a small business owner, my advice is not to worry about them. That's it. No more acronyms. This is an acronym-free zone. But do worry about how you market your business online. You see, from what I've observed, motivated small business owners are running Google AdWords, they're optimizing their site for the search engines, they're securing their website hosting, they've got great website design, but they're also not doing all this themselves. And that is where Net Registry step in big time. Net Registry exists to get your online marketing sorted. It's what they do. If you're not marketing your business online, then you are leaving money on the table, team. Check them out at netregistry.com.au and tell them Timbo sent you. Alrighty, time to bring Paddi Lund, dentist extraordinaire, business inspirer extraordinaire, into the Small Business Big Marketing studio. You know that quote I shared at the front of this show? Is a quote that I came across when researching the idea of interviewing Paddi. And he really did say that, and he really has got some very, very strong views on how to create a business that is full of happiness. Because Paddi, at one point during his dentistry profession, considered killing himself. And that's when things took a turn for the better. That sounds weird, but you will understand what I mean as we get stuck into this interview. We go to some places I certainly didn't plan for in this interview. I found it's very philosophical. It's full of marketing gold, but it certainly ended up much more than just finding out how he created a happy dental practice. I think you're going to enjoy it. So listen in as I chat with Paddi, who actually has no fixed address. He's in Thailand as we speak, and he shares with us how to create a happy business.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Now, I understand you sold your dentist practice in Brisbane about 4 years ago, but a number of years before
Sorry, Tim, not true.
Not true.
No, I didn't sell it. I just closed the doors.
Walked away.
Just walked away, Tim.
Sold the building.
Yeah, sold the building. Interesting in that this is everybody's life plan, isn't it? You build a business and then sell it. But for me, I got one year. I thought, whatever year it was, I'm not sure. I thought I've got enough. My lifestyle had been gradually becoming less and less expensive throughout the years. I live a very frugal, minimal life. I have 3 shirts and 2 pairs of jeans and 1 pair of shoes and a backpack. And this is how I live all of the time. And so I suddenly thought, here I am with enough money to last me for the next 200 years. Why am I bothering to sell this business? And indeed, I thought it was a little like selling people almost, these people that I got to know for such a long time and served them. So in one way, I felt a little bit funny about leaving them with no one to look after them. But on the other hand, I thought, no, I don't know anybody that I trust enough to hand these people over. So I said to them, look, I've got a friend down the coast who's pretty good, and he can take some of you. But otherwise, look, you're just going to have to look around because I don't know anybody. And I gave it a couple of months just in case anybody had any major problems. And then I closed the doors and I went home.
You could have sold it and given the money to charity. Did you consider that?
No. I'm not very altruistic, Tim.
You're very honest, though.
Yeah, well, I even found I have a degree in medicine as well as dentistry, so I can do a bit of medicine and a bit of dentistry. So I was doing a bit of that up in the north of Thailand, and eventually I figured this also does not float my boat. I just haven't got that very altruistic gene.
So you're a fellow who. You've studied a lot. I mean, you have invested a lot of time. I mean, how many years is a medical and dentistry degree?
Yeah, well, I did oral surgery as well. So
we'll just factor that in. So I'm guessing you've invested over 10 years.
Maybe 11 or 12 years or something like that. Yeah,
at that point, when you're studying, you must, well, no, I won't say must, because I don't think must is a word that's going to be used much around here, but you thought, I'm going to build a dentistry practice, I'm going to build an empire? Or did you always think you were at some point going to have 3 shirts and a backpack?
No, I like most people, I went through the stage of empire building and found that though I was okay at managing a few people, I was not good at managing a lot of people. I found my optimum number was about 2. Mm-hmm. I can well manage 2 people. More than that, it gets a bit complicated and I stop enjoying myself. Also, as I was empire building, I found that I was, being a professional, employing other professionals, I would often make less money than I should have done because I was spending my time managing when I could have been spending my time working as a professional, which is usually a fairly high dollar value. So it's a big jump from being a competent, relatively expensive professional provider to building a small empire. Mm-hmm. Some people can do it, but it's very rare.
Okay, so if we could just hop in that time machine and go back to that point in your life, because you did empire build, you did study for those 11, 12 years, you did go out and try and build an empire at a point in time, like, from what I understand, many dentists find themselves immensely unhappy, and you had a very unhappy practice. You considered suicide. Can you just tell us about that point in your business life?
It's to do with empire building and wanting too much. And no matter how much money we make, we can always spend more. It's easy to have a lifestyle that's bigger than your business, and it leads to Charles Dickens said it very well. I think it was Mr. McCorber giving advice. And he said, annual, and I paraphrase, please don't send in letters if I've got this wrong. This is a paraphrase. So he said, basically, annual income, £1. Annual expenditure, 19 and 11 pence, result happiness. Annual income, £1. Annual expenditure, £1 and 1 penny. The result is unhappiness.
Spending more than you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like being on a financial treadmill. It's horrible. And most people get into it at some time in their life. They develop high maintenance habits. They eat expensive food, go to expensive restaurants, because, especially professional people, they feel that's their due, and also they're expected to do it. Many people will have a high maintenance spouse and high maintenance children that go to.
Did you have what were your, I don't know what the word is, Paddy, anchors? What did you have that was keeping you there? Did you have a wife, children? What were your highly expensive habits?
No, I think mine were more prosaic. Mine were fast cars, expensive restaurants, and expensive resorts, I think. Mm-hmm. Or probably expensive house. I've been married a couple of times. Both of my wives were pretty sensible. In fact, they probably gave me some of the best advice I've had in life. So I can't blame them.
What was that? What was the best advice? Leave me.
No, I can't tell you that at this point. I should have to discuss it with them before I can tell you what their advice was.
I'll ask again in about 15 minutes. So, Paddy, I think we all get where you were going with this, and so at a point in time, you've just imploded, have you? Was there a day that you reflect back on where you imploded?
Yes. There was it was a probably particular week where I started to go insane.
Would you mind sharing that with us?
I could. For me, it's a rather boring story these days because I'm past that. Mm-hmm. I don't need to do that anymore. But it's a method of escape. If we get stressed enough in our lives, we search for escape. And eventually most of us end up with some sort of escape through showing how stressed we are and becoming slightly insane. We call it breakdown, stuff like that. There's all sorts of names. But it's a way of dealing with the situation. Your brain is saying, can't go on like this anymore. My body's can't go on like this anymore. And so it's a compensating mechanism. We just can't function anymore doing this sort of thing. And many people end up in mental hospitals, and many people end up changing their job, and many people in professions end up killing themselves. Mm-hmm. But I was a little more pragmatic, and my brain works a little different than many people's, and that I often see a strange answer and that other people don't see. And my strange answer for this situation was to get happy. The insight I had was, I'm unhappy. I mean, it sounds simple, but many of us don't come to that. We think, I'm working too hard, I've got too many responsibilities, the economic situation is bad, I've got a difficult profession. Basically what it boils down to is, I am unhappy. And for me, the purpose of life is to be happy, and I think it's the same for most human beings. And if we're not happy, life is terrible, and we often want to end it. So for me, being somewhat pragmatic, when I decided I was unhappy, I thought I was going to do something about it. And rather than just take pills so that I can tolerate the situation, which is a very common outcome also, I decided I was going to change the situation. And so I set about changing the situation, and probably my second insight was it was my job that was doing it to me. It wasn't my private life, it was my job. My job was very stressful. It was stressful because I was trying to work so hard to make lots of money, and I was trying to make lots of money to try and buy a little happiness in my private life, because I had so much unhappiness in my business life, so much stress. But that's a very inefficient way of going about life, I decided. And I thought, no, I'm going to build a business that gives me happiness.
A happy business?
Well, you could say that, but that's not really, that doesn't really illustrate what I was doing. It did end up being a happy business, you're absolutely right. But the aim was, and this I think is important, the aim was to make me happy. Does that make sense?
The aim was to make you happy. Well, yeah, you were the problem. You were the problem.
I had a problem in that I was not happy. And anybody who is not happy has a problem, I suspect. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And this, I guess, too, was reflecting in your staff, your patients. I mean, it was just kind of the whole ripple effect was dark.
Exactly. And the more we are unhappy, the more people around us become unhappy. And the more people around us become unhappy, the more they influence us to be more unhappy. Mm-hmm. If we live in an environment where there are happy people, we tend to be happy. If we live in an environment where there are unhappy people, we tend to be unhappy.
Would I be right? Would I be right, Paddy, in saying that you were lucky in the sense that you were in a very dark place, but you somehow had the mental capacity to realise that you needed to get happy? Because many, I guess, wouldn't.
I'm not sure whether it's luck or not, Tim. That's a whole philosophical question. And I suspect it was due to the fact that I had great parents and a good education and an unusual brain. Is that luck or is that predestination?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
That's another podcast interview somewhere else. Did you have people tapping you on the shoulder? Any honest people around you? Because I imagine you're living in a fairly unreal world at this stage. Nice resorts, nice cars, nice houses, nice restaurants. In that environment, there'd be a lot of dishonest people. I don't mean criminals. I mean people saying, "You're great, Paddy. We love you, Paddy." But did anyone tap you on the shoulder and say, "You're a fool, Paddy"?
To a certain extent, my wife Deborah was very sensible, but she also didn't have all the insight into the situation. But she gave me good advice. Yes, I had Deborah who was pretty straightforward with me. But most people are not introspective enough to understand this problem because most people have the same problem. They think that economic and social success gives us happiness. And that is not true.
It's a hard one to overcome, isn't it?
It's so well promulgated. It's
thanks to marketing.
Well, no, I think it's
and advertising.
Just marketing. It's the whole world is skewed that way. I don't think it's just modern. It is modern marketing, but it's been here since time immemorial.
Yeah.
Rich people are going to be happy. People who are socially successful are going to be happy. Yeah, there's a slight amount of truth in it, but it misses the whole point. The point is we have to build a life that makes us happy, and not much of that life needs to be to do with the social systems and economic systems that we have.
So, Paddy, I almost feel guilty about leaving the philosophical discussion. I feel it's going to come back anyway. But
guilt's always useful.
Yeah, it is good. It keeps you honest. You decided you needed to create a business that made you happy. So what did you do? How did you go about that? I understand one of the first things you did was fire 75% of your client base.
No, that was probably wasn't. That's an interesting story, and it makes it sound a little more uncaring than it was.
Right.
And it certainly wasn't the first thing that I did. The first thing that I did was introspection, to decide what made me happy and what made me unhappy. It's really hard, introspection. It's hard to figure out. Just to sit down for half an hour and think, what is it in my life how can I build a life that's going to make me happy? And what is it about my current life that makes me unhappy? To do that requires an enormous amount of energy and it makes your head ache. I know from personal experience. It's very hard to think that deeply. Usually we shy off and just go on with life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. I can... you're an honest fellow, and this is an honest session. I've just been in China, as I said before we hit record, for 4 days, and I went over there to give a talk, and I knew I had some spare time, and I was going to reflect. I'm in a very busy time of my life at the moment. I was going to do some introspection. I didn't call it that, but I went to do it, and I found it all too hard.
You're being honest too, Tim. Yes. It's one of the hardest things in life. It's easy just to get on with doing stuff.
Absolutely.
Much easier. And that's not just in life, though life is the most important thing. It's also in our business. So often we just keep pedaling and don't think about the systems that might make it less arduous to pedal. Introspection is like that. If we introspect and go through the pain, we can make our life less arduous. But we have to pay the price to start off with. You don't have to do it for a long time to start off with. You can do it for a minute or two. But as I was explaining to my Thai boxing teacher today, he's a great Thai boxer, but he's not that wonderful a teacher because he hasn't learned to think. He's learned to exercise his body and put up with the pain of his muscles, but he hasn't learned to put up with the pain in your brain when you think. When you think with a part of your brain that's not used to thinking, it hurts. So that's introspection. If you're not used to introspection, take it easy. You'll get there.
What's the question that you sit down and ask, Paddy?
How can I be happy? What is it that's making me unhappy at this moment? What is if I assume most people will understand that if they're happy in life, that's good, and if they're unhappy, that's bad. It's almost innate, isn't it? We get this good feeling when we're happy and we like it, we enjoy life, and we get this bad feeling when we're unhappy.
Makes sense.
You accept that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So happiness is the most important thing in life. We sometimes think, oh no, the most important thing in life is family or religion or country or community.
I would almost say peace. Well, I think it's a subjective question, but you know, I like pushing concepts. So is happiness the end point? To me, I would have thought to be at peace with who you are would be the end point, not happiness.
Well, if you're at peace with who you are, it makes you happy.
You will be.
Well, I think so. Yes, but that's certainly a component of happiness. That this is my tenet, that happiness is the most important thing in life, and that we look for things to make us happy. And some of us find that we get happiness from our religion and from our country, and we tend to think that these things are more important than happiness, but in actual fact, they're what we supply our happiness. That's what supply our happiness. So the end point of it all is happiness, and we have different sort of tools that we use in life. So for me, that was my first aha moment. Yes, I want to be happy. And the second one was discovering what it was that made me happy and pursuing it.
So you at least must have thought at this point in time, Paddy, that business, the idea of being a dentist and owning a dental practice was what you wanted to do. There were just things within the way you went about running that practice that were making you unhappy. Is that correct?
Can I switch it around a little bit and say life had taken me to the place where I was a highly qualified dentist, or depending on what we're talking about, an oral surgeon, and I also wanted to, so I needed a job to give me money so that I could live and buy food. But I also discovered that I wanted to be happy. So my purpose became to run my business in such a way that it would provide me with happiness rather than take away happiness. Does that make sense?
Your purpose was, yeah, absolutely. So everything that you would do going forward had to provide happiness, or it didn't fly in the world of Paddi Lund.
That's it. So I set about adding all the things that made me happy and taking away all the things that made me unhappy. Mm-hmm. Does that sound logical?
Yeah, total.
And if I talk about one, maybe we look at just one area. One area was, what is my product? And previously I thought, well, my product when I was a physician was health, and when I was an oral surgeon it was taking away infections, or cancer, and when I was a dentist it was, I don't know, filling up holes. But in the end, as I explored this happiness concept more and more, I thought, no, most people are like me. They want happiness just like me. So my product actually is happiness. I would like to make my customers more happy than they were before. Mm-hmm. And they were before they met me. That became my purpose. And the way I supplied it was through dentistry. So it doesn't really matter what business you're in. If you can supply people with happiness, that is the perfect product.
Okay. So I'm going to bring that back to a bit of a marketing discussion here and say that you'd identify that everything you were going to do in the practice going forward had to provide happiness to Paddi Lund. As a result, it would provide happiness to your staff and your patients. From what I understand...
That's a little bit of a disjoint.
I love how you keep pulling me up.
Yeah, no, go on.
Go. Tell me the disjoint.
Okay, well, because... if I become happy, I'm sort of the leading light in the business. It tends to make other people happy.
Yes,
it's not so selfish as it sounds.
No, I agree absolutely.
It's hard to. In fact, by making myself more happy, I became more aware that my purpose was to make other people happy, because that is what made me happy. Mm-hmm. we surround ourselves with happy people, we become more happy. It's wonderful. We're these social animals. We need to be happy, and we discover that we get more happy by surrounding ourselves with happy people. So we start to make them happy, and then when they become happy, they sometimes start to realise the same thing, and they tend to want to make me happy. It's a nice little circle. Make sense?
Absolutely. So from what I understand, you went and identified a whole lot of things in the business, and I imagine this was a joint kind of exercise amongst you and your staff, and said, well, where is all the sadness in the business, and what can we do to fix it? Where I'm going with this, Paddy, is that I am interested, and I would love you to share what the experience of being a Paddi Lund patient. In fact, you didn't even call them patients. I'd love you to share that, because I think that's it's a really interesting story. So
the main thing that I discovered in that particular time is that we're greatly affected by how other people treat us. This impinges on our happiness greatly. You understand that? Mm-hmm. How other people treat us. And what that means in our society is generally politeness. If people are polite and respectful with us, it tends to make us feel good. And if they're impolite and disrespectful, it tends to make us feel bad. That's in a nutshell what I discovered at that point. And I discovered it by looking at the interactions that we had with each other and questioning people about what it was about interactions that made them unhappy. And almost 100% it was the lack of common politeness, the lack of please, the lack of thank you, the lack of respect, the lack of smile, talking about people behind their backs. There were all sorts of areas that made people feel, and the modern word is disrespected, and I quite like it actually, feel disrespected. So we together made up a series of standards that we would use in our communication with each other. This is in my business family, which is what you might call staff or team. So we made 7 rules or standards and put them on the wall, and we attempted to live by them. And we were not 100% successful, but we certainly improved our happiness remarkably. In fact, for a long time, every evening we would score our happiness.
Wow. I don't need to recite all 7, but what was an example of one of these standards, Paddy?
An example was one of the standards was if you want something from someone, say please. And if you receive something, say thank you. And if somebody says thank you to you, you say you're welcome or it was a pleasure.
Wow. It's beautifully simple.
But most people, when I say that, say, "Oh, I can't do that. It's too complicated. No, I'm running a business. I haven't got time."
Really?
No, and I can understand that, but it really only takes about 3 seconds. And I actually, when I first thought of that standard, I had a lot of resistance to it myself. In fact, I was probably the worst person at using that standard. But now it's become second nature, and I always do it. No, I shouldn't say always, but I mostly do it. And it makes a lot of difference in my interaction with people.
And at the end of the day, you literally sat down with your business family and asked how do we go on those 7 standards today?
Yes, it wasn't always me that asked. We did a round robin, and there was always a facilitator who asked. And how happy are you today? And why is it not 100%? What happened in your day? And almost invariably, it's some little human interaction that didn't go so well. So as we came across each area that was causing a problem, we attempted to make a standard to cover that area. And we called the overall system the courtesy system. And I wrote a book about that. I wrote a book called Building the Happiness-Centered Business, which centers around that story about how to build a system of communication in a business that makes people happy with each other. And eventually we extended that to our customers, and we mandated that our customers must use that with us. We made a bargain with each new customer. We will always use the standard with you. We would like you to use the standard in return. If you can't, well, it's probably better if you find some other business.
So, Paddy, to that point, you did choose to farewell a number of patients. 75% might be the truth getting in the way of a good story, but you did...
Oh, no, it could easily have been, but it took a long time to do that.
Yeah, but you basically, from what I understand, you took down the shingle, you didn't market yourself overtly, you implemented a referral system in which existing patients... What did you call patients?
Customers or guests.
Existing guests were asked to refer if people like themselves, and it was very much a closed practice. I mean, you operated off what I would probably call a scarcity model.
Well, that was the early model. That was a long time ago. The later model was what I call by invitation only, which meant that only certain of my customers were given the privilege of inviting their friends. So you had to be a special customer to be offered that privilege. It was not all the customers who could refer their friends. And so no name in the phone book, silent number, a locked front door, no signs, and no one could just walk in the door even if they could open it. You had to be invited by one of our privileged customers and they had special invitation cards. So it became by invitation only, which is, yes, it's a scarcity model, but that wasn't the point for me. The point for me was to surround myself with customers who were wonderful.
Is it all? There was a balance here, as you're almost walking a tightrope of, I'm trying to build a happy business versus people viewing this as an incredible arrogance. Did you get a bit of that?
Did I get that? I didn't ever get that personally, except from other dentists when I spoke about this concept. I didn't ever find that from customers. They seemed to feel privileged to be able to refer their friends. And if they weren't privileged, they would work hard to be privileged. So that was my experience of that. But certainly other dentists would think this was an arrogant model. And also probably there were many other people that I didn't come in contact with who were not dentists and not customers of mine who felt the same thing. But it doesn't matter because I only wanted 0.001% of the population as my customers. So I would sometimes sit at my front window and watch people walk by, and I think, yes, for every 1,000 people that walk by, there will only be one person who really wants what I've got, and that's fine.
Did this all lead to you reducing your hours significantly and putting your prices up significantly, Paddy?
I'm not sure what led to what, but certainly
both happened.
10 years of my practice, I only worked 2.5 days a week in a single person practice, or maybe 2 days in the last 5 years, making in my investigations quite a lot more money than the average dental practitioner. So when you say putting your prices up, I'm not sure if that's true, because that denotes that there is a price for a piece of work, and I don't have that.
I don't understand that because. So can you explain that a little bit more? You started to work less. You were selective about who you worked with, and you did earn significantly more. So there must have been a definite decision at some point to say that filling is now going to cost. It used to cost $100, it's now going to cost $300. You know, there must have been some point where you've reviewed your pricing.
Well, you say that there must, but I don't believe that is the case.
Right.
So, okay. Can you open your mind a little bit?
I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. Always open to that. But if you start,
that's assuming that there is a price for an item.
There was no price for an item.
No,
there was no menu.
I didn't have prices for items.
Right.
My product is happiness.
Yep.
And the mechanism of supplying the product is helping people to be happy about their mouths because they are comfortable, can chew well, look good, and are healthy. Now, that's the product. And the price is related to that product, not to an individual item.
So, okay, I get that. I'm guessing I wouldn't have been an ideal patient, an ideal guest, because I would want to be walking into this wonderfully happy practice knowing that, I'm getting a filling and I'm going to have less pain and I'm going to be able to smile again and I'm going to have a healthy mouth. But geez, I'd love to know what to budget for that filling.
Yeah, okay. I understand your point of view. And that assumes that after you had gone through the process of invitation and gone through the process of welcoming and education, that you still felt the same way, that you were filling-centric.
Yep.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Rather than well-being-centric or happiness-centric.
Yeah, well, transaction versus transformation. You're more into transformation.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. It's not just me that has good ideas.
No, absolutely not. Okay, so I'm clearer on the way you went about charging. I'm not 100% clear. Did you... I'm not going to push much further on this, but I do think it is interesting because pricing is one of those areas of many small business owners listening that troubles them. Was there one guest who came in for a filling and paid $100 and another one who paid $500 on the same day? Or did the menu say, I don't know, I don't even know what the question is here. Help me, Paddy.
Okay, you're still filling-centric.
Yes.
You're still filling-centric. And this is... it's an interesting way of thinking. We tend to have particular ways of thinking about particular businesses. And the people who are in the business tend to be the most standardized thinking about their own business. We can be a little more creative when we think about businesses that we don't own, a way of thinking about that business. But when we're in a business, it's very hard to get out of the standardized way of thinking about the business. And so if you're I have a friend, Mike Bash, who was in the beginning of organising FedEx, and if you read the FedEx story, you'll start to see that this guy is looking at the transport and communication and packaging and parceling business in a completely different way. He's got a different paradigm. And this is very useful sometimes when we want to build a different kind of business, to develop a different paradigm for that business. And it's only when you ask me these questions about the filling or the cost that I start to realise, I don't even think about the business that I had in this way. It's not even part of my mindset anymore. It certainly has been in the past, 30 or 40 years ago in the past. That's how I thought about dentistry. But it's completely different now. I have a completely different mindset. And the interesting part about that is anybody can do it. You don't have to run the same generic kind of business as everybody else.
Great point.
It is possible. There's no angel watching over your shoulder and saying, no, that's not standard That's not standard chiropractic. Chiropractors shouldn't think like that. That's not standard pharmacy. No, pharmacists give drugs out and take money. That's the model. Well, it's changed a little in recent days. They have computers. They give advice. They to a certain extent provide a safety net for the doctors these days. It's different, and in different countries you'll see different models. In fact, it's worth going around the world and seeing the different models of business that you can see. Here in Thailand, I'm fascinated by the different ways that people do things. We think that we in the West have the ultimate way of doing everything. It's not true.
So your point, Paddy, your point is there are different ways of cutting the cloth, and often, particularly in the West, we just do what we expect is expected within our industry, and what every other plumber or dentist or chiropractor or business owner has done forever and a day. But in actual fact, there are other ways of doing it.
You've hit the nail right on the head.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, Paddy, I'd love to... we could go on forever. This should have been a one-day workshop, not a 35-minute podcast interview. And again, guilt is asking me not to ask this question, but I am interested in smell, and it is a rational question following such a philosophical discussion. But again, smell is one of those things that I haven't had the conversation on this show about, and it's an important marketing play in your practice. You spent a little bit of time trying to get rid of the smell of Novocaine, and what did you actually do to address that? The smell is very important in the dental practice because many people are fearful of the smell of dental practice. And unlike vision and sound, we can't easily block out smell. It comes in with the air. We've got to breathe. And it's a very, very primitive sense, one of the more primitive senses, and it's very deeply connected to our emotions. So very hard to block out. Once you have an unpleasant association with a smell, or indeed once you have a pleasant association with a smell, you may remember back to some lady that you knew wore a particular perfume, and smelling that perfume will bring her back at the age that she was, looking as lovely as she was. Can you sympathise with that? Yeah, I can. Well, I was actually thinking more about the sour milk at kindergarten, but which brings back wonderful memories. But I can also reflect on some wonderful ladies that I met that smelt beautiful.
And chalk does it.
And chalk, yeah, absolutely.
So many people seem to have this thing about the smell of dentists. So I thought, I'm going to get rid of it. And so when I built a new building, and I designed the air conditioning so that it sucked the air from the outer parts of the building through to the inner part of the building where the operatories were, like the surgery areas, and out through the top of the building. So that it's a bit like in a bacteriological laboratory, the air always sucks inwards, so you don't get the bacteria going out. Here it was the smell. I didn't want the smell going out into the lounge areas. So that was the first thing I did. And the second thing I did, there were a number of steps, but eventually we became a dental patisserie, and we started baking good-smelling patisserie in our business.
Dental buns, I think you called them.
Yeah, see, we call them buns. I've tried to get away from that word because when I speak in America, it evokes too much laughter, and I just get tired of explaining it. So I just say patisserie now. Yeah. Dental buns, yes, especially if you have a lot of dental assistants in the audience, they go crazy for about 5 minutes. So yes, that's exactly right. So this changed the smell of my business to a smell, from a smell that caused people to have fear in their hearts, to a place where people smelt something that made them think about their mouths, not as a place of fear, but as a place of pleasure. Mm. And I engineered the situation where almost inevitably people would taste these buns as a first process. And there's a way you can do that. It's not easy.
What do you mean? You engineered a way of... No, what do you mean by that?
Oh, okay. Well, if you say to somebody, would you like a cup of tea? Almost invariably, most people will be green jai. The word here in Thailand is green jai, and it means you don't want to trouble people. No, it's okay. No, I don't need a cup of tea. Don't you? However, in my business, I want people to have a cup of tea because I want them to feel cared for, and I know that sharing tea with someone breaks down barriers, and I know that sharing dental patisserie with people breaks down barriers. It's a way getting closer to people. And so I have a form of words for the tea, which I gradually developed, which work really well. And it is, look, I'm glad you've come. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you come. Look, I just put the teapot on and I was just going to have a cup of tea. But I hate to drink tea alone. So I wonder, would you join me? Would you join me? Otherwise I'm going to feel really bad. Of course, 100% of people will join me.
Yep.
It's
and have a bun while you're at it.
And have a bun. Yeah. Well, there's another way for doing that. But these are systems. Systems are terribly important. It's like introspection. We introspect about our life and we think about our business from a systems point of view as a way of making the business run more efficiently and easily and with more quality. So I'm a very systems person, especially in terms of communication. So that's one of the examples of a communication system, so that people will do what you want them to do.
You must have drunk a lot of tea and ate a lot of buns.
Yes, this is why I have to do Muay Thai, so that I can lose some of the calories. Yeah.
Hey, Paddy, I really appreciate this chat. It kind of went where I thought it would, and it went in some very unusual directions, which I love, and I know my listeners will love too. I think we got some marketing gold in there, as well as some philosophy and some world according to Paddy. So thank you so much for sharing all that.
You're very welcome, Tim.
Yeah, okay. Well, lots of questions left, maybe for another time. If people wanted to find out a little bit more about you, I know they can head over to Paddi Lund with a .com. There is a book as well. What was it called?
There's a number of books, but the one I was referring to was called Building the Happiness-Centered Business.
Love it.
And the website is PADDILUND.com. Yeah. I think it's .au too.
Well,
thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Absolute pleasure, Paddy. Thanks so much, mate. Bye.
Bye.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
What about that, folks? Hope you enjoyed it. Before I give you my top 3 learnings, let me quickly tell you about Swiftly.com. I think you're going to want to hear. Now, I say quickly because that's exactly what Swiftly is all about. Small design fixes fast. Swiftly is ideal for altering your business card details, logo alterations, banner ad updates, even photo touch-ups, and we all love a good photo touch-up. You simply upload the artwork that needs fixing, tell them what needs doing, and boom, within 1 hour, often much less, let me tell you, it's done. All for just $19. Check them out, swiftly.com. That's SWIFTLY. All right, so I would love to hear what you thought about that fireside chat with dentist Paddi Lund. I found it an incredibly interesting interview. Could have gone on for much longer, always conscious of how long these interviews go for, so kept it to that kind of magical 40 or 50 minutes or whatever we ended up running to. 3 tips that I took from that chat with Paddi. Number 1, put aside time for introspection. Yeah? What would make you happy? What would make for a happy business? What would make for a happy business owner like yourself? Interesting. I, as I said, did try to do it in China. I kind of decided to go and walk the tourist tracks instead. Number 2, create systems and processes. Got to do this as a future topic. It is actually a future topic that will be covered inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. I have found a systems expert, and she is going to share exactly how to set up systems so that you're not always reinventing the wheel. So that would be interesting, and Paddi agrees with that. Number 3, consider what you're doing in your business just because that's how the industry does it. And I suppose it's to my editorial at the top of the show, get what you've always got. I think we do need to look outside our industry to see how we could be doing things better, because it doesn't, our industry doesn't always get it right. And there are different ways of cutting the cloth. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. This was episode 183. Would love you to leave a comment, some feedback, your thoughts in the show notes. That almost brings us to the end of episode 183 of the world's favourite small business marketing podcast. No listener reviews today, team, read by celebrities. Too much travel. That whole China thing, it kind of got in the way of getting that sorted. Get into the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. If you do want to continue the marketing discussion, head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, click on the forum button, and come in and say hi. Ask a marketing question. There are so many motivated business owners offering up so many marketing ideas and answers to your questions. It's wonderful, and I'm in there every day as well. If you want to get your online marketing sorted, head over to Net Registry and support those who support us, as well as swiftly.com for small design fixes fast. Upcoming interviews, unbelievable what we've got coming up in the next few weeks. We're doing a funny business session with Griffo this week. We were meant to do it last week, but he got caught in a cyclone. And also speaking to some guys who own a business called Gandhi's Thongs. They lost their mum and dad in the Thailand tsunami a few years ago, and subsequently started a business called Gandhi's Thongs. Amazing story. So plenty of marketing gold coming up. That's enough. I'm Timbo Reid. You've been smart enough to tune in to the world's #1 small business marketing show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.